take on the crime crackdown. How do you feel it's gone so far?
Well, Emily, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be with all of you. Listen, I think the president has continued to just demonstrate the leadership that we expected that he was going to bring to this second term in the White House. And we've not been disappointed. And just one of the areas has been in the area of law and order. And what we've seen happen in Washington, D.C. Was amazing. What we've seen happening in Memphis, even right now, again, amazing. And as that report came out yesterday and Kash Patel was sharing many of those statistics and all of that information from the Oval Office, it really was, I think, encouraging and heartening for Americans to know that we can get this done, but we've got to be able to work together. And of course, what it does is it highlights the Democrat soft on crime policies of the left that have continued just to create chaos in so many of our major cities. And of course, we've seen our share of it right in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I hail from.
Yeah, and Congressman, it just seems like the president is not just fighting Democrats and liberals and some in his own party. He's definitely fighting the judiciary. It reminds me of a Star Wars movie, The Judiciary Strikes Back instead of the Empire, which in a way, if you think about it, is an empire. We've got this now NBC News headline on a different topic, but they're everywhere. A judge now blocking Trump's layoffs during the shutdown. This judge did this late afternoon yesterday, calling them illegal. I mean, I feel like Donald Trump has been fighting the courts since he was like 24 years old in Manhattan. Tell us more.
Well, I agree. I think the courts right now seems to be really where so many of our problems are. When we talk about this crime issue, so many of these people that are arrested are ending up back on the streets. That seemed to be the problem that we were facing in Charlotte. Our Judiciary Committee held a field hearing just a couple of weeks ago in Charlotte, North Carolina, around that horrible murder of Irina Zarutska, you might recall. And in the midst of that hearing, not only while we had gathered to talk about what had happened to Irina and a guy that had been arrested 14 times prior, had spent 5 years in prison, was known to have mental health issues, and yet a magistrate just put him right back out on the street, and then he committed this horrendous murder. Well, in the midst of that hearing, we heard from a father that many in the nation have now heard from, named Stephen Federica, who shared about his daughter Logan and the horrendous murder. And what was amazing in his story, the guy that committed that murder of his daughter, 39 times, 25 felonies that he had been arrested for, and yet he was out and able to do that. We've got serious problems with the judiciary, and then, of course, we have these federal judges that are trying to slow down the America First agenda, and that's a real problem. And we're trying to make sure we've already passed no road rulings here in the House that stop these federal district court judges making rulings that somehow are impacting the nation. And so we've got to continue to move forward with this, get our message out, and we've got to get these laws passed.
Congressman, what you just described happening in your hometown of Charlotte, North Carolina, are institutional and systemic issues. Those words, institutional and systemic, also seem to be appropriate when it comes to you and your colleagues and the work that you're doing in trying to get the government reopened there in Washington, D.C. When I think of institutional and systemic, I think those concerns, would be appropriate when we talk about the way we go about funding the government and the House actually going through on its constitutional duty and funding all of these appropriation bills, which gets me to my actual question, Congressman. What are your thoughts in terms of how long it's going to ultimately take to get the government open? And I think it is appropriate. Again, no disrespect, but I think it's an appropriate and a fair question to get to the root of the matter, and it's that we haven't, as a government, appropriated or passed the 12 appropriations bills, all of them, in order to fully fund the government. That's ultimately what this comes down to, is it not?
Terrence, you're spot on. And all of us have run again and again that saying that we want to make sure we restore regular order. And in this particular situation, it's a very interesting situation to see how it unfolded. We did invest the 6 months of this year passing the One Big Beautiful Bill, or the Working Working Families Tax Act. And getting that passed consumed a great deal of time. The appropriations process has been working through. We passed 3 appropriation bills out of the House. All 12 have actually passed out of committee. In the Senate, we have them in the pipeline. That was the whole point of the clean CR that the U.S. House passed on Friday, September 19th. We were going to avoid a government shutdown that would happen at the close of business on September 30th if we had just passed that CR. We did pass it in the House. We sent it over to the Senate. Chuck Schumer grabbed hold of it and decided he was going to make a political move. And here we are, all of these days later, 9 votes later by the Senate, each time rejecting the clean CR. But yet, this clean CR has no frills, no surprises, nothing there. It simply was giving us an additional 7 weeks to November 21st to continue to pass appropriation bills. And that's what the whole point of it was. And Chuck Schumer would rather hold the American government hostage and say, no, we're going to keep it closed down until you give us these $1.5 trillion that we want in spending, basically undoing everything that we sought to do in the one big beautiful bill. And we don't probably have time now to go down the list of things they're demanding, but that's what they are. It's just like a ransom note and a hostage demands. And it's something we cannot tolerate. So we're continuing to hold firm. The Senate will continue to deal with this. They've got to vote for this to reopen the government. It's absolutely critical. And thank God President Trump is doing the things he's doing to try to maneuver to make sure that our troops got paid yesterday on the 15th of the month. And again, they're working hard to do these things, but we've got to get the government open. And Chuck Schumer is the one that can answer when.
Congressman, 10 seconds here, but I heard Senator John Kennedy say he thinks this is going past Thanksgiving. Do you think this is going past Thanksgiving?
I have no way of knowing. I really don't. I pray not. I pray that the people of this country will rise up and contact these Democrat senators. We need 5 more to break the logjam, and surely to goodness they'll come to their senses and make this happen.
Congressman Harris, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.